They laughed when the two women stepped off the bus at Fort Benning. They laughed louder when they walked through the gates of the U.S. Army Sniper School. But nobody was laughing when the first shot echoed across the range. The Georgia sun beat down mercilessly on the asphalt as the transport bus hissed to a stop outside the most notorious training facility in the American military. Through the dust-caked windows, Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves could see them. Dozens of male soldiers, arms crossed, smirking, whispering to each other as they watched the new arrivals disembark. Maya was 32 years old, lean and weathered from 6 years in the Army Rangers. Her dark brown hair was pulled back in a regulation bun so tight it gave her a perpetual look of intensity. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold in the sunlight, had seen things most people couldn't imagine. Firefights in Kandahar, rescue operations in Baghdad, nights so cold in the mountains that your breath froze before it left your lips. Beside her stood Corporal Sarah Chen, 26, shorter and more compact, with jet black hair and sharp, calculating eyes that missed nothing. Sarah had come up through Army intelligence before requesting transfer to infantry, then pushing relentlessly for sniper school. Where Maya was instinct and experience, Sarah was mathematics and precision, a human ballistics computer wrapped in camouflage. "Here we go," Maya muttered under her breath as they grabbed their duffel bags. "Let them stare," Sarah replied coolly. "They'll be eating those smirks in about 48 hours. The moment their boots hit the ground, the comments started. "Looks like they sent us babysitters instead of soldiers. Hope they brought their makeup kits. Gonna need it after the first ruck march. $20 says they're crying by nightfall. I'll take that bet. I give 'em till noon." Maya had heard it all before. Every posting, every training evolution, every time she walked into a room full of men who'd decided before meeting her that she didn't belong. The words used to sting. Now they were just background noise, like the distant sound of artillery practice. What bothered her more was the institutional resistance. The email she'd received 3 weeks ago from the school commandant, a thinly veiled, "Are you sure?" wrapped in official language. The lost paperwork that delayed her orders by 2 weeks. The accidentally assigned male barracks that required a formal complaint to correct. They wanted her to quit before she even started. Sarah, for her part, seemed utterly unbothered. She walked with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd calculated the optimal stride length for conserving energy over long distances. Her face was a mask of professional indifference, but Maya knew her well enough to spot the telltale sign, the slight tightening around her eyes that meant she was cataloging everything, filing away every face, every comment, every potential obstacle. The two women had met 18 months ago during a joint training exercise in North Carolina. Maya had been teaching close-quarters combat. Sarah had been assigned to her squad as an intelligence liaison. Within a week, they'd discovered a shared frustration, being the best in their respective fields while constantly having to prove they had the right to be there at all. They'd hatched the plan over bad coffee in a mess hall at 0300 hours, apply to sniper school together, watch each other's backs, refuse to quit no matter what. "You two lost?" The voice belonged to a tall, heavily muscled sergeant with a shaved head and a neck thick as a tree trunk. His name tape read, Kowalski. He looked them up and down with undisguised contempt. "Recruitment offices back in town. This here's for real soldiers." Maya met his gaze without blinking. Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves and Corporal Sarah Chen, reporting as ordered for the Sniper Basic Course, Sergeant. "That right?" Kowalski spat tobacco juice onto the dirt near their boots. "Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You two are going to waste 8 weeks of my time, use up slots that could have gone to qualified candidates, and then wash out crying about how unfair it all was. So do us all a favor. Quit now. Save everyone the trouble." Sarah's voice was ice-cold mathematics. According to Army Regulation 350-1, all soldiers meeting the prerequisites have the right to attempt qualification for specialized training regardless of gender. Our orders are signed by Colonel Patterson himself. Unless you're planning to override a full colonel's decision, Sergeant, I suggest you show us to our assigned barracks. The smirk vanished from Kowalski's face. For a moment, Maya thought he might actually lose his composure entirely. Instead, he leaned in close enough that she could smell the tobacco on his breath. "Smart mouth," he hissed. Let's see how smart you are when you're carrying 70 pounds through 10 miles of Georgia swamp. When you're holding your rifle steady for 6 hours in the rain. When you're calculating windage and elevation while someone's shooting back. He straightened up, addressing the gathered crowd of male students. Everyone, meet our diversity hires. Give them a round of applause. They're gonna need all the encouragement they can get. Slow, mocking claps echoed across the compound. Maya felt the familiar burn of anger in her chest, but she'd learned long ago how to transmute it into fuel. Every insult was another pound of weight she could carry. Every doubt was another hour she could stay awake. Every smirk was another shot she could make when it counted. Barracks 7, Kowalski finally said, jerking his thumb toward a weathered building at the far edge of the compound. Formation at 0500 tomorrow. Don't be late. He paused, then added with obvious satisfaction, and ladies, this course has a 92% failure rate for men. I'd wish you luck, but math says you ain't got a chance in hell. As they walked toward their assigned building, Maya could feel dozens of eyes tracking their movement. The weight of expectation, or rather the expectation of failure, pressed down like the Georgia humidity. Sarah broke the silence first. 92%. I heard him. That means only 8 out of every 100 graduate. Your point? We're about to be 2 of those 8. Maya couldn't help but smile. Damn right we are. The barracks were Spartan even by military standards. Metal frame beds, thin mattresses, lockers barely large enough for their gear. Someone had thoughtfully placed 2 bottles of pink nail polish on their pillows. Sarah picked hers up, examined it clinically, then deposited it in the trash without comment. Subtle, Maya observed. They're testing us. Trying to provoke an emotional reaction they can use as evidence we don't belong. Sarah began unpacking with mechanical efficiency. Psychology 101. They want us angry or crying. Either one confirms their bias. So we give them nothing. We give them perfect execution. Every task, every test, every moment. No mistakes, no excuses, no weakness. Maya sat on her bunk, feeling the springs creak beneath her. Through the window, she could see the rifle range in the distance, long lanes stretching out to targets barely visible to the naked eye. Somewhere out there, beyond 1,000 yards of Georgia terrain, was the proof she'd been seeking her entire military career. She thought of her father, a Vietnam veteran who'd taught her to shoot when she was 8 years old. Tin cans on fence posts behind their ranch house in Montana. He'd never questioned whether she could do it, only whether she wanted to work hard enough to be good at it. Your eye and your breath, he'd told her, his weathered hand steadying her grip on the .22 rifle. That's all shooting is, Maya girl. Control those 2 things and the bullet goes where you tell it. He'd died of cancer when she was 19, 3 months before she enlisted. She joined partly to honor his memory, partly to prove something to herself. Now, 13 years later, she was still proving it. They're going to try to break us, Sarah said quietly, interrupting her thoughts. Not just physically, psychologically. They'll find whatever vulnerabilities we have and exploit them. Then we don't have vulnerabilities. Everyone has vulnerabilities, Maya. Then we don't show them. That night, neither woman slept well. The sounds of the barracks were alien. Distant conversations, the rumble of trucks, the constant low hum of generators. But more than that was the knowledge of what lay ahead. At 04:30 hours, Maya's internal alarm woke her. She dressed in silence, watching as Sarah did the same with mechanical precision. They were at formation 15 minutes early, standing at attention while other students trickled in, most looking haggard from insufficient sleep. Kowalski appeared at exactly 500, accompanied by Master Sergeant Ellis, a wiry man in his 50s with the cold eyes of someone who'd spent decades looking through rifle scopes at distant enemies. Welcome to hell, Ellis said without preamble. I'm Master Sergeant Ellis, head instructor for this course. You will address me as Master Sergeant or Sir. You will not question my methods. You will not complain about the difficulty. You will either meet the standard or you will fail. His gaze swept across the formation, lingering on Maya and Sarah. I don't care what's between your legs or what color your skin is. I care about one thing. Can you put a bullet exactly where it needs to go when lives depend on it? Everything else is irrelevant noise. It was the first fair thing anyone had said since they arrived. Today begins your evaluation period, Ellis continued. Physical fitness test, rifle familiarization, basic ballistics exam. Fail any component, you're out. No second chances, no remedial training. This course is not designed to teach you to shoot. We expect you already know that. This course is designed to forge you into a weapons system capable of operating independently in any environment under any conditions. Questions? Silence. Outstanding. Run begins in 5 minutes, 12 miles, full combat load. Anyone not back in 90 minutes can pack their bags. The run was exactly as brutal as promised. 70 pounds of gear, humid Georgia air, terrain that alternated between mud and sand and everything in between. Maya fell into her pace, the one she'd developed over years of ruck marches, and let her mind detach from the burning in her legs and lungs. Sarah kept stride beside her, breathing controlled, face expressionless. Behind them, Maya could hear other students, men who'd talked so confidently yesterday, gasping and cursing. They finished in 73 minutes, 17th and 18th out of 42 students. Not the fastest, but well within the acceptable range. More importantly, they'd finished strong, breathing hard but controlled, while multiple male students collapsed or vomited after crossing the finish line. Kowalski checked them in with obvious disappointment. He'd been hoping for failure. The ballistics exam came next, a written test covering physics, mathematics, meteorology, and weapon systems. Sarah finished in 20 minutes and scored perfectly. Maya took the full hour and scored 96%, still top 5 in the class. Then came rifle familiarization. Each student was issued an M24 sniper weapon system and given 30 minutes to disassemble, clean, and reassemble it while an instructor watched for any mistake. Maya's hands moved with practiced confidence. She'd done this thousands of times, could probably do it blindfolded. Beside her, Sarah worked with surgical precision, each movement economical and exact. They finished simultaneously. Their weapons passed inspection flawlessly. Beginner's luck, Kowalski muttered. Luck is not a factor in weapon maintenance, Sergeant. Sarah replied evenly. By the end of day 1, 3 students had already dropped out. 2 others were on medical hold for injuries sustained during the run. The whispers about the 2 women had changed slightly, from outright mockery to cautious skepticism. Maybe they wouldn't fail immediately, but they'd fail eventually. Everyone knew that. As Maya collapsed onto her bunk that night, every muscle screaming, she allowed herself a small smile. They'd survived day 1, only 55 more to go. The second week of sniper school was where dreams went to die. It was where physical exhaustion became a permanent state of being, where sleep deprivation turned your thoughts to mud, where the rifle in your hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. It was designed to break you before you ever fired a shot at a real target. Maya learned this truth at 0200 hours on day 9 when Sergeant Kowalski kicked open their barracks door and started screaming. Up! 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 On your feet, both of you! Full kit, rifle range, 5 minutes or you're done. She and Sarah moved like machines, their bodies operating on autopilot developed over years of military service. Uniforms on, boots laced, gear secured, rifles grabbed. They were outside in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, standing at attention in the darkness, while other students stumbled out in various states of confusion. Too slow, Kowalski bellowed at 2 men still struggling with their gear. You just got your entire team killed because you couldn't get your boots on fast enough. Drop and give me 50, right now. The 2 men hit the dirt and began pushing. The rest of you, move out. Night stalking drill. You've got 2 hours to reach checkpoint Alpha without being spotted by the observer team. Anyone who gets caught does the whole thing over tomorrow night. And tomorrow night. And every night until you get it right or wash out. Night stalking, the art of moving invisibly through hostile terrain, was one of the fundamental skills of a military sniper. It required patience, discipline, and an almost supernatural ability to become part of the environment. Maya had done it before, but never under these conditions, exhausted, in unfamiliar territory, with instructors actively hunting for any mistake. She and Sarah moved together, separated by about 20 meters to avoid presenting a grouped target, communicating with hand signals barely visible in the darkness. The Georgia forest was alive with sound, insects, distant birds, the rustle of wind through leaves. They used it all, timing their movements to mask the sound of their passage. 3 hours later, they'd deliberately taken extra time to ensure perfection. They reached Checkpoint Alpha. Master Sergeant Ellis was waiting with a thermos of coffee and an expression that might have been approval. 17 students so far, he said quietly. You two make 19. Good work. It was the first praise either of them had received. How many got caught? Maya asked. 12. They'll be running it again tonight. Ellis poured himself coffee, steam rising in the pre-dawn air. You know why night stalking matters? Infiltration, Sarah answered immediately. Getting into position without compromising mission integrity. That's the technical answer. Want to know the real reason? Ellis didn't wait for a response. Because the moment you pull that trigger, everyone in a 5-mile radius knows exactly where you are. All your training, all your skill, all your patience, it culminates in one shot that announces your presence to every enemy in the area. Night stalking is what gets you home alive after that shot. It's what lets you complete the mission and see your family again. He fixed them both with his cold, experienced gaze. I've trained over 800 snipers in my career. Lost track of how many are still alive and how many got zipped into body bags because they forgot that survival is part of the job. You two seem competent. Don't make me add you to the second list. The days blurred together after that. Wake at 04:30. Physical training until you thought your heart might explode. Breakfast, if you could eat while your stomach churned from exertion. Classroom instruction on advanced ballistics, meteorology, range estimation, target identification. Lunch, again, if you could manage it. Practical exercises on the range, learning to read wind, calculate elevation, adjust for temperature and humidity, and barometric pressure. Dinner, evening instruction on camouflage, concealment, fieldcraft. Sleep, maybe 4 hours if you were lucky. Repeat. Every day, no breaks, no mercy. Students continued to drop out. Injuries, academic failures, simply giving up. The class that had started with 42 was down to 28 by the end of week 3. Maya and Sarah remained. Not at the top of the class. That distinction belonged to a cocky Marine named Henderson, who seemed to have been born with a rifle in his hands, but solidly in the upper tier. Competent, consistent, unbreakable, which made them a problem for those who'd expected them to fail. The harassment became more subtle. Equipment that mysteriously malfunctioned. Range assignments that were somehow always the worst conditions. Shooting into the sun, high wind, awkward positions. Comments that weren't quite direct enough to report, but clear enough in their intent. Must be nice having lower standards. Wonder if they'll create a special participation trophy category. My girlfriend could probably pass this course now that they've made it easier. Sarah's response was to outperform. Every test, every exercise, every evaluation, she approached it with mathematical precision and crushed it. She became known for her ability to calculate complex ballistics problems in her head faster than most students could do with a calculator. Maya's response was different. She began helping other students who were struggling, offering tips on breathing control, sharing techniques for staying motionless during long observation periods, demonstrating proper trigger squeeze. It confused people. Why would she help her competition? Because snipers don't compete with each other, she explained one evening to a young Army specialist named Torres who was on the verge of washing out. We support each other. On a real mission, my spotter might save my life. The team in the next hide site might provide covering fire when things go sideways. This isn't about being better than the guy next to you. It's about all of us being good enough to come home alive. Torres took her advice. His scores improved. He thanked her awkwardly and went back to his bunk. 2 days later, during a particularly difficult shooting exercise, Torres was paired as Maya's spotter. When she was setting up her shot, he noticed something she'd missed, a subtle shift in wind direction indicated by leaves moving differently at target distance. His correction allowed her to make a perfect shot at 1,100 meters. We're even now, he said with a slight smile. The moment that changed everything happened during week 5. The exercise was called hide site construction and long-range observation. Each student pair had to construct a completely concealed position, then occupy it for 24 hours while observing a target area and reporting all activity. Instructors would actively try to spot the hides, If they found you, you failed. Maya and Sarah were paired together, the first time the instructors had allowed it. They were given a sector that was particularly difficult. Sparse vegetation, open ground, multiple elevated observation points for instructors to scan from. They want us to fail this, Sarah observed as they studied the terrain. This is a setup. Then we don't fail, Maya replied. We build the best hide they've ever seen. They worked for 6 hours, moving with agonizing slowness, using natural materials to create a position that seemed to be nothing more than a slight depression in the ground. They incorporated living vegetation, matched colors and textures, eliminated any straight lines or artificial patterns. When they were done, you could stand 5 feet away and never know anyone was there. Then began the waiting. 24 hours of absolute stillness, taking turns observing through a spotting scope, recording every vehicle, every person, every movement in the target area. No food except energy bars, water in small sips to avoid needing bathroom breaks. Communication in whispers barely audible even to each other. Hour 6. Kowalski walked within 3 feet of their position, scanning with binoculars. He stood there for 10 minutes, searching, convinced they were nearby. Finally moved on, frustrated. Hour 12. Another instructor spent 20 minutes methodically searching their sector with thermal imaging. But Maya and Sarah had constructed their hide with thermal considerations in mind, using layers of natural material that diffused their heat signatures. Hour 18. The sun rose, revealing their position in harsh daylight. Multiple instructors scanned the area. Nobody spotted them. Hour 24. Master Sergeant Ellis himself came to their sector, accompanied by Kowalski. They're here somewhere, Kowalski insisted. I know they are. Probably gave up and went back to barracks. Ellis studied the terrain with the practiced eye of a man who'd spent 30 years doing exactly this. He walked the entire sector, stopping occasionally to examine something that caught his attention. At one point, he stood directly in front of their hide, so close that Maya could have reached out and touched his boot. Well constructed, Ellis said quietly, seemingly to himself. Using natural drainage for concealment, multi-layer vegetation to break up thermal signature, no reflective surfaces, minimal disturbance to surroundings. He raised his voice. Staff Sergeant Reeves, Corporal Chen, you can come out now. Exercise complete. They emerged from the hide like ghosts materializing from the earth itself. Kowalski's jaw actually dropped. How the hell? He started. 24 hours, Master Sergeant, Sarah reported crisply. Complete observation log, all activity recorded and verified with timestamps and photos. No detection by observation team despite multiple sweeps. Ellis took the logbook, flipped through it, then handed it to Kowalski. Read it. Kowalski scanned the pages, his expression darkening. This is comprehensive. That's one word for it, Ellis said. It's the most detailed observation log I've seen in 3 years of running this exercise. He turned to Maya and Sarah. You two just set the standard. Outstanding work. Word spread through the class quickly. The 2 women everyone expected to fail had just executed a textbook perfect hide site construction and observation. Suddenly the whispers changed. Did you hear what they did? Ellis called it the new standard. Maybe they actually know what they're doing. But not everyone was impressed. That night Maya was returning from the latrine when 3 students blocked her path. She recognized them, Hendricks, Paulson, and Martinez. All 3 were struggling academically and had poor shooting scores. All 3 had been vocal about women not belonging in sniper school. Got a minute, Staff Sergeant? Hendricks asked, his tone making it clear it wasn't really a question. Maya assessed the situation with the instinct of someone who'd been in combat. 3 against 1, isolated location, darkness, no witnesses. Not good odds if this turned physical. Make it quick, she replied, keeping her voice steady. We've been thinking, Paulson said, moving to partially block her exit path. Pretty convenient how you and your girlfriend keep doing so well. Makes a guy wonder if maybe the instructors are going easy on you. You know, for political reasons. Political reasons? Maya repeated flatly. Come on, everyone knows this is all about publicity, Martinez added. Pentagon wants their diversity photo op, so they make sure a couple of females graduate, prove how progressive they are, never mind if you can actually do the job. Maya felt the anger rising but kept it locked down. Getting into a physical confrontation would end her career, and these idiots probably knew it. They were hoping she'd throw the first punch. "You're right about one thing," she said quietly. "The Pentagon does want diversity. Know why? Because multiple studies show that diverse teams perform better in complex operational environments. Different perspectives lead to better problem solving. And in a combat situation, better problem solving means more people coming home alive." She took a step forward, forcing them to either move or make physical contact. They moved. "But here's what you're wrong about. I'm not here because of quotas or politics or photo ops. I'm here because I earned it. Same standards as you, same tests. Same exhaustion, same pain. The only difference is I'm not making excuses for why I'm struggling, and you are. Watch your mouth," Hendricks growled. "Or what? You'll report me? Go ahead. I'd love to explain to Master Sergeant Ellis why 3 grown men needed to corner 1 woman in the dark to have a conversation they could have had in broad daylight. I'm sure that'll reflect really well on your psychological evaluations." The standoff lasted another 10 seconds. Then, without a word, the 3 men walked away. Maya's hands were shaking when she got back to the barracks. Not from fear, from the adrenaline dump that follows a potential confrontation. Sarah took one look at her and understood immediately. "What happened?" Maya explained. Sarah listened in silence, her face expressionless, but her eyes calculating. "This is escalating," Sarah said finally. "They thought we'd quit by now. Since we didn't, they're getting desperate. Desperate people do stupid things." "What do you suggest?" "We document everything. Every comment, every incident, every suspicious equipment failure. Build a case in case this goes formal." Sarah pulled out a small notebook. "And we watch our backs. Literally. Never alone if we can help it. Trust no one except each other." It was a depressing assessment, but Maya couldn't argue with the logic. The next morning, Sergeant Kowalski announced a surprise evaluation, emergency shot drill. Students would be woken at random times over the next 72 hours, given 30 seconds to get to the range, and required to make a cold bore shot at 600 meters. Miss, and you failed. Cold bore meant the first shot from a rifle that hadn't been fired recently. The most difficult shot because the weapon hadn't been adjusted or zeroed for current conditions. It was a test of pure skill and instinct. Maya was woken at Aura 147 hours, night 2. She made it to the range in 28 seconds, still half asleep. The rifle felt alien in her hands. The target was barely visible in the darkness, illuminated only by infrared designators. She took 3 breaths, felt the wind on her face, made microscopic adjustments to her scope, and squeezed the trigger. "Hit," the range safety announced. "Dead center." Sarah was woken at 1823 hours, night 3, right in the middle of dinner. She arrived at the range with a piece of bread still in her hand, took her position, and fired within 15 seconds. Hit. 3 inches high, center mass. By the end of the 72 hours, 8 students had failed the drill. Hendricks, Paulson, and Martinez were among them. They were removed from the course immediately, their gear packed and bus scheduled. As they loaded onto the transport, Hendricks stopped in front of Maya. For a moment she thought he might say something, an apology, a final insult, something. Instead, he just shook his head and climbed aboard. The bus pulled away in a cloud of dust. 12 left, Sarah observed, watching it disappear. Plus us. 14 total. The real course starts now. Everything up till this point was just screening. She was right. The advanced phase of sniper school was where they learned the art of the craft, reading terrain, planning infiltration routes, calculating shots in extreme conditions, working as a team where each member's life depended on the other. And Maya and Sarah discovered something interesting. They were good at it. Really good. Their shooting scores climbed steadily. Their fieldcraft evaluations were consistently excellent. Their tactical planning exercises demonstrated creativity and solid judgment. Torres, the young specialist Maya had helped weeks ago, became an unofficial ally, running interference with other students, sharing intel about instructor attitudes, having their backs. By week 7, Master Sergeant Ellis pulled them aside after a particularly difficult exercise. "I owe you both an apology," he said without preamble. "When I saw your names on my roster, I made assumptions. Figured you'd be gone in a week, 2 at most. I was wrong. You've proven me wrong every single day." He paused. "What you're doing here matters. Not because of gender politics or publicity, because you're showing every person in this army that the only thing that should matter is whether you can do the job. And you can. Both of you." It was the highest praise either of them had received in their entire military careers. That night, for the first time since arriving, Maya slept soundly. The final test was coming, and she was ready. Week 8 began with a message that sent ripples through what remained of the class. Final evaluation would be a realistic mission scenario. Students would be divided into teams, given a target package, and required to plan and execute a simulated long-range engagement against a hardened position with active opposition force. Everything they'd learned, shooting, stalking, planning, teamwork, would be tested simultaneously. "This is it," Master Sergeant Ellis announced to the 14 remaining students. "This is where we separate the school-trained from the combat-ready. You will operate in 2-person teams. You will have 48 hours to plan your mission. You will then have 24 hours to infiltrate, set up, observe, engage your target, and exfiltrate without being compromised by the opposing force. Fail any component, and you fail the course. Questions?" Henderson, the cocky Marine who'd maintained top position throughout the course, raised his hand. "Master Sergeant, who selects the teams?" "I do, based on complementary skill sets and psychological profiles." Ellis consulted his clipboard. "Henderson, you're with Ramirez. Torres, you're with Jackson. Kim, you're with Novak." He continued down the list until only 2 names remained. "Reeves and Chen, you're together. Surprised?" "No, Master Sergeant," they answered in unison. "Good, because you two have the hardest target." Ellis pulled out a map and pointed to a location deep in the training area. "Abandoned observation post, elevated position, 360-degree visibility. Your target is a high-value individual who will appear at an unpredictable time within your 24-hour window. He'll be surrounded by security. Your shot will be from approximately 1,200 meters across a valley with variable wind conditions. Miss and he disappears forever. Get spotted by the opposing force and they'll hunt you down. This is as close to real-world conditions as we can simulate." Sarah studied the map with her characteristic intensity. "Rules of engagement? 1 shot, 1 kill. No second chances. The HVI will only be exposed for approximately 3 minutes. You need to identify him, calculate your shot, and execute perfectly. Any questions about whether you have the right target, you don't shoot. Better to miss the opportunity than kill the wrong person." Maya understood immediately why this was the hardest scenario. It wasn't just about making a difficult shot. It was about making the right shot under time pressure with incomplete information. It was the kind of decision that haunted snipers for the rest of their lives if they got it wrong. The next 48 hours were a blur of planning. Maya and Sarah spread maps across their barracks floor, analyzing terrain, calculating routes, identifying potential hide sites. They studied meteorological data, wind patterns, and temperature variations. They planned primary and alternate positions, infiltration routes, exfiltration contingencies. "The valley is the problem," Sarah said, marking up the map with calculations. "Wind will be channeled through there, probably swirling, unpredictable. We'll need to read it in real time, can't rely on pre-calculated data." "What about thermals?" Maya asked. "Time of day will affect air density, which affects bullet trajectory." "Exactly. If we assume the HVI appears mid-afternoon, we're looking at heat shimmer, mirage effects, potentially 30 to 40 degrees temperature differential between us and the target. That's significant deviation." They worked through every scenario, every contingency. By the time the 48 hours ended, they had a plan that covered 17 different possibilities and 3 completely separate hide sites depending on conditions. Master Sergeant Ellis reviewed their plan with an unreadable expression. "This is thorough. Some might say overly complicated." "No plan survives first contact with the enemy, Master Sergeant," Maya replied. "We built in flexibility." We'll see. Your infiltration window begins at 1800 hours today. The opposing force will be active. They're experienced soldiers who've done this before. And they know you're coming. Don't get caught. The sun was setting when Maya and Sarah moved out, carrying everything they'd need for potentially 24 hours in the field. 70 pounds of gear each: rifle, ammunition, water, observation equipment, camouflage materials, rations, medical supplies, communication gear. They moved slowly, deliberately, using every piece of cover the terrain offered. The Georgia forest was different at dusk, shadows deepening, sounds changing, the temperature dropping. They'd studied this route on the map, but reality was always more complex than paper. 3 hours into the infiltration, they encountered their first problem. The primary route they'd planned was now occupied by an opposing force patrol. 6 soldiers, heavily armed, sweeping through exactly where Maya and Sarah needed to go. They froze, communication by hand signals only. Sarah pointed to an alternate route, longer, more difficult but uncompromised. Maya nodded agreement. They shifted direction, moving with agonizing slowness to avoid making any sound that might alert the patrol. It took an additional 2 hours to circumnavigate the patrol and reach the ridge overlooking their target area. By then, it was nearly midnight, and they were both exhausted from 12 hours of continuous movement while carrying heavy loads. "Hide Site 1, Maya whispered, barely audible even from inches away. "Agreed." Sarah scanned the area with night vision, checking sight lines, exposure, potential approaches. "Agreed. We'll need at least 4 hours to construct it properly." They worked in near total silence, moving natural materials with glacial care, creating a position that would be invisible from more than a few feet away. Sarah handled the technical construction, while Maya maintained security, watching for any indication they'd been compromised. Dawn was breaking when they finally settled into their completed hide. From their position, they could see the abandoned observation post 1,200 meters away across the valley. It was perfect, and perfectly exposed. Anyone standing there would be visible, but so would anyone trying to shoot them. "Now we wait," Sarah said, settling behind the spotting scope. "Could be hours, could be 23 hours, no way to know. I'll take first watch. You sleep." "Can't sleep. Too much adrenaline." "Force yourself. We need to be sharp when the moment comes." "That's an order, Corporal." Sarah smiled slightly. It was rare for Maya to pull rank, and closed her eyes. Within minutes, her breathing had deepened into sleep. Maya watched through the spotting scope, scanning the observation post and surrounding area in a methodical pattern. Security forces were visible, opposing force actors playing their role convincingly, patrolling, maintaining alertness. The valley between their position and the target was alive with morning activity: birds, small animals, and the play of light and shadow as the sun rose. 6 hours passed. Nothing happened. They switched positions. Sarah took observation while Maya slept for 3 hours, then woke and ate an energy bar that tasted like cardboard but provided necessary calories. "Any movement?" Maya asked. "Patrol patterns every 45 minutes. Same route, same number of personnel. They're disciplined but predictable. Wind, variable. Reading between 5 and 12 miles per hour. Direction shifting approximately 20 degrees every 10 to 15 minutes. It's going to make the shot complicated." "Complicated is what we train for." Noon came and went. The sun beat down mercilessly. Inside their hide, the temperature climbed to nearly 95 degrees. They rationed water carefully, knowing they might need to stay hidden for many more hours. It was at 14:37 hours when everything changed. "Movement," Sarah said sharply. "Multiple vehicles approaching the observation post. 3 SUVs, military pattern." This could be it. Maya shifted to the rifle, settling into her shooting position with practiced efficiency. Through her scope, she watched the vehicles arrive. Doors opened. Security personnel emerged first, scanning the area with professional caution. Then more people, several men in civilian clothes, none matching the photo of their target. "Negative ID," Maya reported. "Not our guy." "Wait, one more person still in the middle vehicle." A figure emerged. Older man, gray hair, distinctive posture. Maya compared him to the photo she'd memorized. "Positive ID, target acquired." "Confirmed," Sarah said, eye pressed to the spotting scope. "That's our HVI. Range 1,216 meters. Wind currently 8 miles per hour, left to right, but it's shifting. Temperature 93 degrees, humidity 72%, barometric pressure 30.02 inches of mercury. Maya's mind became a calculator, processing variables at lightning speed. She'd made this same calculation hundreds of times in training, but never with this much riding on it. Never with this many factors in flux. Target is mobile, Sarah continued, moving toward the observation post structure. We have maybe 2 minutes before he's inside and out of sight. Maya adjusted her scope, compensating for elevation, distance, and wind. But the wind was wrong, shifting, uncertain, reading differently at various points across the valley. A perfect shot in these conditions wasn't about calculation alone. It was about intuition developed through thousands of hours of practice. She thought of her father. Your eye and your breath. Control those two things, and the bullet goes where you tell it. Wind shift, Sarah announced. Now 10 miles per hour, still left to right, but angle changed. Maya made a microscopic adjustment. The target was walking steadily toward the structure, surrounded by security. In 30 seconds, he'd be inside. The mission would fail. 15 seconds, Sarah said, her voice absolutely calm. Clear shot, but closing fast. Maya's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to one thing. The crosshairs of her scope centered on a man 1,200 meters away who had no idea he was in danger. 10 seconds. Her finger moved to the trigger. First stage of press, taking up slack. The rifle seemed to become an extension of her body, responding to her intention as much as her physical actions. 5 seconds. Wind steady. Now or never. Maya exhaled slowly, letting her body reach perfect stillness between breaths. At the bottom of her exhale, at the exact moment when her body was most stable, she completed the trigger press. The rifle recoiled. The shot broke clean. Through the scope, 1,200 meters away, she watched the bullet's impact. The target dropped instantly, precisely as trained. Around him, security personnel reacted with confusion and alarm, scanning for threats they couldn't see. Hit, Sarah confirmed, watching through the spotting scope. Center mass, he's down. Target eliminated. Exfiltration, Maya said immediately, already breaking down her rifle. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they start sweeping for our position. They moved with controlled urgency, gathering gear, erasing any sign of their presence. The hide that had taken 4 hours to construct was disappeared in 10 minutes. Then they were moving, using terrain and vegetation to mask their withdrawal, putting distance between themselves and the inevitable search. Behind them, they could hear vehicles, commands being shouted, the organized chaos of a security force responding to a sniper attack. But Maya and Sarah were already half a mile away, moving through terrain they'd pre-scouted, using routes they'd memorized. It took 8 hours to reach the extraction point. They'd covered 15 miles through difficult terrain while carrying full loads, moving with constant awareness that opposing forces were actively hunting them. When they finally crossed into the safe zone, both women were exhausted beyond description. Master Sergeant Ellis was waiting with a stopwatch and clipboard. Time? 8 hours, 14 minutes since shot, Master Sergeant, Sarah reported. Ellis consulted his notes. Target confirmation came through 3 minutes after your shot. Opposing force began active search at 7 minutes. They never came within half a mile of finding your hide site. Exfiltration route was clean. You were never compromised. He looked up from his clipboard. That was a 1,216-meter shot in variable wind conditions with a 3-minute window. How'd you make it? Maya was too tired for false modesty. Training, Master Sergeant, and trusting my spotter. Your calculations were perfect, Sarah added. I just provided the data. Ellis shook his head slowly. In 30 years of running this course, I've seen maybe 5 shots that difficult made successfully. Usually it takes multiple attempts. Sometimes the students never get it, and we pass them anyway because the conditions were too harsh. He paused. You two made it look routine. Over the next 3 days, other teams completed their evaluations. Henderson and Ramirez succeeded, but took 18 hours to get their shot. Torres and Jackson had to attempt their mission twice before succeeding. Kim and Novak succeeded on the first attempt but were nearly compromised during exfiltration. 2 teams failed completely. Their members were removed from the course. On the final day, the 10 remaining students stood at formation while Master Sergeant Ellis addressed them. "Behind you are the portraits of every sniper who's graduated from this school," he began, gesturing to a wall covered in photographs. 483 faces, men who've served in every conflict since this course was established. Men who've made impossible shots, saved countless lives, operated in conditions most people can't imagine. He turned back to the formation. "Today, we add 10 more portraits to that wall. 10 more soldiers who've proven they have what it takes to carry this burden, to make decisions that can't be unmade, to operate alone in hostile territory with only their skills and their courage to rely on." Ellis walked down the line, stopping at each student. When he reached Maya and Sarah, he stopped. "I told you both I'd made assumptions when I saw your names on my roster. I thought you'd quit. I was wrong." His voice carried clearly to everyone present. "What you've proven here matters, not because you're women, but because you're soldiers. Damn good ones. The kind I'd want watching my back in combat." He stepped back, addressing the entire formation. "All of you are graduating today. All of you have earned the right to call yourselves U.S. Army snipers. Wear that title with pride. Live up to its standard. And remember, the real test isn't here in training. It's out there, when lives actually depend on your skills. Don't let yourself down. Don't let your team down, and don't let the soldiers wearing these faces down." He gestured again to the wall of portraits. "They set the standard. Now you carry it forward." The ceremony was brief, military efficiency at its finest. Each graduate received their diploma and distinctive sniper badge. Photos were taken, hands were shaken. Master Sergeant Ellis personally pinned Maya and Sarah's badges on their uniforms. "You two set records here," he said quietly. "Highest combined score in the history of this course. Best fieldcraft evaluations I've ever seen. And that shot," he shook his head, "that shot is going to be studied for years as an example of perfect execution under pressure." "Thank you, Master Sergeant," Maya replied, "for giving us a fair chance. I should be thanking you. You just made this school better by proving that skill has no gender." Later, as Maya and Sarah packed their gear for departure, Torres stopped by their barracks. "Just wanted to say thanks," he said awkwardly. "You helped me when you didn't have to. I wouldn't have made it without that." "You made it because you worked hard," Maya corrected him. "I just pointed you in the right direction." "Still means something." He paused. "For what it's worth, everybody knows what you two accomplished here. The guys who gave you crap at the beginning, they're eating crow now. And the ones who stayed, we're telling everyone about the 2 women who graduated top of the class from sniper school." After he left, Sarah looked at Maya thoughtfully. "Top of the class? Think that'll change anything?" "No," Maya answered honestly. "We'll go to our next posting and have to prove ourselves all over again. There'll be more Kowalskis, more Hendricks, more people who assume we can't do the job. But we can. But we can. And we just proved it in the hardest course the Army offers." Maya closed her duffel bag. "That's not nothing." "No," Sarah agreed. "That's definitely not nothing." They walked out of the barracks together, past the range where they'd fired thousands of rounds, past the forest where they'd spent countless hours stalking invisible through the darkness, past the wall of portraits that now included their own faces. Behind them, Fort Benning faded into distance. Ahead was the rest of their military careers, whatever that might bring. But they'd carry something with them now. Proof, undeniable and permanent, that they belonged. 3 years later, Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves stood on a different range at a different base, watching a different group of students struggle with the fundamentals of long-range marksmanship. She'd been promoted twice since graduating sniper school and was now an instructor herself, teaching the next generation what she'd learned through blood, sweat, and countless hours of practice. The student struggling most at the moment was a 22-year-old woman named Private First Class Jennifer Walsh. She was on her 5th attempt at a 600-meter shot and had missed every time, her frustration evident in the tension of her shoulders. "Private Walsh," Maya called out. "Break!" The younger woman lowered her rifle and turned, her face flushed with embarrassment. Staff Sergeant, Save it. Walk with me. They moved away from the range, out of earshot of the other students. Maya had learned over 3 years of instructing that some conversations needed privacy. I can't do it, Walsh said quietly. I've tried everything. Breathing, trigger control, position adjustments. Nothing works. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maya studied her for a long moment. She saw in Walsh the same doubts that had plagued her years ago. The internalized belief that maybe the critics were right, maybe she didn't belong. Maybe she should quit before the embarrassment of failure became too great. You know what your problem is? Maya asked. I'm a terrible shot? No, you're thinking too much. Every time you settle behind that rifle, you're calculating 50 different things and second-guessing all of them. Your brain is so busy criticizing yourself that your body can't do what it already knows how to do. I don't understand. You qualified expert marksman to get into this course, which means you can shoot. The mechanics are there. What's missing is trust, in yourself, in your training, in your instincts. Maya gestured back toward the range. When you're behind that rifle, there's no room for doubt. Doubt makes you hesitate. Hesitation makes you tense. Tension ruins the shot. Walsh looked at the ground. It's hard not to doubt when everyone's watching, waiting for you to fail. Who's everyone? The other students. Half of them think I shouldn't be here because I'm female. The other half are just waiting to see if I wash out so they feel better about their own chances. Maya nodded slowly. She understood that pressure intimately. Let me tell you something. When I went through sniper school, there was a sergeant who told me I was a diversity hire, that I'd been accepted because of politics, not skill, that I was wasting everyone's time. Walsh's eyes widened. What did you do? I graduated top of my class, set records that still stand. And you know what? It didn't change his mind. Last I heard, he still tells people the course was made easier to accommodate women. Maya smiled without humor. Some people are going to doubt you no matter what you accomplish. So you can either waste energy trying to convince them, or you can focus on being so undeniably good that their opinions become irrelevant. That's easier said than done, Staff Sergeant. Of course it is. Nothing about this is easy. But here's what I learned. You're not shooting to prove something to them. You're shooting to prove something to yourself. Every time you succeed, every time you push past the doubt and make the shot, you're building evidence that you belong here. Eventually, you accumulate enough evidence that doubt becomes impossible. Maya walked back toward the range, Walsh following. Get back on that rifle, but this time, before you settle in, I want you to close your eyes and remember the best shot you've ever made. Not in this course, before. Maybe hunting with your dad, maybe at basic training. Doesn't matter. Remember what that felt like. The confidence, the certainty, the moment when everything aligned and you knew the shot was good before you even pulled the trigger. Walsh closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Maya could see her expression shift as she accessed that memory. Got it? Maya asked. Yes, Staff Sergeant. Good. That feeling, that's who you are as a shooter. Not this nervous, doubting person. Hold on to that feeling. Now get behind your rifle and show me that shot. Walsh took her position, but something was different. Her movements were smoother, more confident. She settled into the rifle like she belonged there, adjusted her scope with decisive movements rather than tentative fidgeting, took a breath, let it out slowly, and fired. 600 meters away, the target indicator flashed. Hit, the range safety called. Center mass. Walsh looked up at Maya with surprise and something else. Hope. Again, Maya instructed. Same shot. Prove it wasn't luck. Walsh fired again. Hit, then again. Hit. 4 more times. Every shot within the acceptable zone. That's enough for today, Maya said. You just demonstrated consistent accuracy at 600 meters. Tomorrow we'll move to 700. Dismissed. As Walsh walked away, another instructor approached. Captain Sarah Chen, who'd been promoted and reassigned to the same base as Maya 6 months earlier. They'd requested to work together, and the Army had surprisingly accommodated the request. Nicely done, Sarah observed. She was about to quit. I know. Saw the same look in the mirror enough times. Maya watched Walsh rejoin the other students, her posture noticeably different, straighter, more confident. She's got the skill, just needed to believe it. You're good at this. Teaching, I mean. Better than most of the career instructors here. Maya shrugged. I remember what it's like to be doubted. Makes it easier to recognize in others. They walked together toward the instructor's building, a comfortable silence between them. Over 3 years, they'd developed an efficient working relationship that required few words. Got interesting news this morning, Sarah said eventually. From Army Sniper School. Oh? Master Sergeant Ellis is retiring next month. They're looking for his replacement. 2 positions, actually, head instructor and deputy head instructor. Maya stopped walking. You're not saying they requested us, both of us, by name. Sarah's expression was carefully neutral, but Maya knew her well enough to detect the excitement underneath. Ellis apparently told them we were the best students he'd ever trained and would make excellent instructors for the course. Fort Benning, Maya said quietly. Going back where it started. Teaching the course that tried to break us. Training the next generation of snipers. Setting standards and policies. Sarah turned to face Maya directly. Showing every future student that gender is irrelevant if you can do the job. It was everything Maya had worked toward. Validation, authority, the chance to shape the course that had shaped her. But something made her hesitate. What about the students here? She asked. Walsh and the others who need instructors who understand what they're going through? The Army has plenty of good instructors. How many of them graduated top of their class from sniper school? How many can speak from experience about what it takes to succeed when everyone expects you to fail? Sarah's logic was, as always, unassailable. We can make a bigger impact at Fort Benning. Maya considered it, returning to that place where she'd been mocked, doubted, and dismissed, but returning as an instructor, someone with authority to set standards and expectations, someone who could ensure future female students received fair treatment from day one. We'd be the first women to ever instruct that course, she said. I know. There'll be resistance. I know that too. Some of the same people who wanted us to fail will be there. Kowalski probably. Others. So? Sarah's smile was sharp. Let them resist. We've already proven we belong. Now we get to prove we can teach others to belong too. That night, Maya sat in her quarters writing a letter. Not to anyone in particular, just organizing her thoughts on paper, a habit she'd developed during deployment. 3 years ago, I stood on a bus looking at men who'd decided I'd fail before I'd even started. They were wrong. But more importantly, they were wrong because I refused to accept their assessment. Sarah and I built something at Fort Benning, not just our own success, but proof that the only thing that matters is competence. Now we have a chance to institutionalize that proof. To make sure future students, male or female, are judged only on their ability to do the job. No more diversity hire whispers. No more questions about lowered standards. Just the standard, applied fairly, with the expectation that anyone who meets it earns their place. It's not about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It's about legacy. When Sarah and I eventually retire, what will we leave behind? Just our own records or an entire system that's better because we were part of it? I think about Private Walsh struggling on that range today. In 5 years, she might be at Fort Benning herself, trying to earn her place. Who will she meet there? Instructors who assume she can't hack it? Or instructors who give her a fair shot and judge her only on performance? That's what this decision is really about. Not our careers. The future. She sealed the letter and placed it in her personal files, knowing she'd probably never send it anywhere, but writing it had clarified her thinking. The next morning, she and Sarah submitted their applications for the Fort Benning positions. 3 weeks later, they received confirmation. Both positions approved. Report date in 60 days. The news spread through the base quickly. Reactions were mixed. Some instructors congratulated them genuinely, respecting their accomplishments. Others made quiet comments about affirmative action and political appointments. Maya had learned to tune out the latter group. Their opinions were ultimately irrelevant. Private Walsh sought her out the day before Maya was scheduled to depart. I heard you're leaving, Staff Sergeant, Walsh said. Wanted to thank you before you go. You changed everything for me. I was going to quit that day on the range. But what you said, it helped me see things differently. You did the work, Maya replied. I just pointed you in the right direction. Still, it mattered. Walsh hesitated, then asked, Can I ask you something? What's it like being one of the first, knowing everyone's watching, waiting for you to mess up? Maya thought about the question carefully. It deserved an honest answer. It's exhausting, she finally said. Every day you carry the weight of representation. You know that if you fail, people won't just judge you, they'll judge every woman who comes after you. So you can never have an off day, never show weakness, never admit doubt. That sounds terrible. It is, but it's also important, because somebody has to be first. Somebody has to walk through the door and prove it can be done, and then the next person has a slightly easier path, and the person after that has it even easier. Eventually, being a female sniper isn't remarkable, it's just normal. Walsh nodded slowly. I want to try for sniper school, after I get more experience. Think I could make it? Maya looked at the younger woman, really looked at her. Saw the determination that had kept her trying even when she was missing shots. The resilience that brought her back every day despite doubting voices. The willingness to seek help and learn from it. Yeah, Maya said with certainty. Yeah, I think you could make it. And when you do, Sarah or I might be your instructors. So don't slack off on your fundamentals. Walsh grinned. Yes, Staff Sergeant. The drive to Fort Benning took 2 days. Maya and Sarah traveled together, using the time to discuss their plans for the course. First priority is reviewing the curriculum, Sarah said, ever the planner. Make sure academic standards align with field requirements. I've noticed some disconnect in other courses between what's taught in classroom and what's actually needed on operations. Agreed. But we also need to address the culture, the informal stuff that isn't in any manual. Maya kept her eyes on the road. Things like how students are treated during off-duty hours, what comments are acceptable from instructors, how to handle harassment or discrimination if it occurs. Tricky. We change too much too fast, we'll face resistance from the instructor cadre. Change too slowly, and we're not actually fixing the problems. We find the balance. Make changes that improve outcomes while maintaining standards. If we can show that our methods produce better snipers, it's harder to argue against them. They reached Fort Benning late on the second day. The base looked the same as Maya remembered, sprawling, hot, dusty. The same buildings, the same ranges, the same wall of portraits in the sniper school building. But when they walked into the headquarters building the next morning, something was different. The looks they received weren't mocking or dismissive. They were cautious, evaluative. These instructors knew who Maya and Sarah were, knew their records, knew they'd earned the right to be here. Master Sergeant Ellis met them in his office, soon to be their office. Welcome back, he said, gesturing to chairs. Didn't think I'd see you two here as instructors. Thought you'd be off doing operational work. We were, Maya replied. But when you personally requested us for these positions, we figured it was time to give back. Ellis smiled. I requested you because you're the best candidates I've seen in 30 years. Your technical skills are beyond question. Your tactical judgment is sound. And most importantly, you understand what this course is supposed to produce. Not just marksmen, but complete soldiers who can operate independently under impossible conditions. We appreciate the confidence, Master Sergeant, Sarah said. We plan to honor it. I know you will. But I'm going to be honest. You're going to face challenges I never had to deal with. Some of the instructor cadre are, let's say, skeptical about having female instructors. They'll be watching for any sign you're lowering standards or playing favorites or whatever excuse they've invented. Let them watch, Maya replied. We'll run this course exactly the same way you did. Fair standards, applied consistently, with zero tolerance for anything that isn't about making soldiers better at their jobs. Ellis nodded approvingly. Good answer. One more thing. He pulled out 2 file folders. These are the rosters for the next class, starting in 2 weeks. 45 students, including 6 women. Most female candidates this course has ever had at once. Maya took the folder, scanning the names. Young, mostly, fresh from other assignments. All of them had met the prerequisites. All of them would face the same grinding crucible that had tested her 3 years ago. 6 women, Sarah repeated thoughtfully. That's not coincidence. They're applying because we proved it's possible. Exactly. Which means you two carry an additional responsibility now. Those 6 women are here because of the path you cleared. They'll be looking to you as proof that success is achievable. Don't let them down. It was a heavy burden, but Maya had carried heavy burdens before. We won't, Master Sergeant. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation, reviewing course materials, meeting the instructor cadre, some welcoming, some coolly professional, some barely concealing their displeasure, inspecting ranges and training facilities, making small adjustments to curriculum based on recent operational feedback from deployed snipers. And then on a hot Monday morning, the new class arrived. Maya stood with the other instructors watching the bus pull up, watched 45 students disembark, including 6 women who walked with the careful confidence of people who knew they were being judged. She saw in their faces what she'd felt 3 years ago, determination mixed with uncertainty, the knowledge that they were stepping into a program designed to break them, the hope that they might be strong enough to survive it. As the students formed up, Maya stepped forward to address them. Master Sergeant Ellis had retired the previous week, and the ceremony had officially designated her as head instructor. "I'm Staff Sergeant Reeves," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the formation. "I'll be your head instructor for this course. Next to me is Captain Chen, your deputy head instructor. Between us, we have over 8 years of sniper experience, multiple combat deployments, and records for highest combined scores in the history of this school." She paused, letting that sink in. "I'm telling you this not to brag, but to establish credibility. Some of you are probably wondering if we know what we're talking about. Some of you probably have opinions about female instructors. Here's what I need you to understand. We don't care about your opinions. We care about one thing: whether you can do the job." Sarah stepped forward, her voice equally clear. "This course has a 92% failure rate. Most of you will not graduate. That's not because we want you to fail. It's because the standard is high and uncompromising. Combat doesn't care about your feelings or excuses. Neither do we." Maya resumed. "But here's what we can promise. You will be judged fairly. Your gender doesn't matter. Your race doesn't matter. Your background doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is performance. Meet the standard and you'll graduate. Fail to meet it and you're gone. No politics, no favoritism, no exceptions." She looked directly at the 6 women in the formation. They were standing separately, unconsciously grouped together as if for mutual protection. Some of you might be feeling extra pressure right now, wondering if you really belong here, doubting whether you can keep up with the men. Let me tell you something. Captain Chen and I stood exactly where you're standing 3 years ago. We heard the same doubts, faced the same challenges, and graduated at the top of our class. So yes, you can do this, but only if you're willing to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. She stepped back, addressing the entire formation again. This course begins now. Over the next 8 weeks, you'll be pushed to your absolute limits. You'll question whether it's worth it. You'll be tempted to quit. Don't, because the soldier who graduates from this course isn't the same person who started it. You'll be harder, smarter, more capable. You'll be a weapon system capable of changing the outcome of a battle with a single shot. That's worth any amount of temporary suffering. Sarah concluded, "Formation at 500 tomorrow. Bring everything you've got. You're going to need it." Dismissed. As the students dispersed, Maya noticed one of the women, a tall, athletic corporal named Johnson, lingering nearby. She approached cautiously. "Staff Sergeant, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead, Corporal." "Did you really graduate top of your class? Or is that just something you say to motivate us?" Maya pulled out her phone, called up a photo, and showed it to Johnson. It was the graduation photo from 3 years ago. Maya and Sarah standing with Master Sergeant Ellis, their faces exhausted but triumphant, holding diplomas that listed their scores. Johnson studied the photo, then looked up with something like awe. "You set the record." "We did. And in 8 weeks, one of you might break it. Or you might wash out in the first week. The only way to find out is to try." Johnson nodded slowly, her expression determined. "Thank you, Staff Sergeant, for showing us it's possible." As Johnson walked away, Sarah joined Maya. "Think they'll make it?" Sarah asked. "Some will, some won't. Same as every class." "The women think they have a shot?" Maya watched the 6 female students gathering their gear, talking among themselves, already forming the bonds that would either help them survive the course or make failure more painful. "Honestly, I think at least 2 will graduate, maybe 3 if we're lucky. That would be huge, 6% of the class being female graduates versus historical 0%. Progress, Maya agreed. Slow, but real. Over the following weeks, the course unfolded in its brutal, methodical way. Physical training that left students gasping. Academic sessions that overwhelmed the unprepared. Range time that exposed every weakness in shooting fundamentals. Fieldcraft exercises that demanded perfection. And through it all, Maya and Sarah maintained the same standard they'd been held to. Fair, but uncompromising. Students who met the requirements advanced. Those who didn't were removed, regardless of gender. By week 4, the class had shrunk to 28 students. 3 of the women had washed out, 1 for academic failure, 1 for inability to meet physical standards, 1 by choice after deciding the course wasn't for her. The remaining 3 women, Johnson, a specialist named Rodriguez, and a sergeant named Kim, were holding their own. Not at the top of the class, but solidly in the middle pack. Competent, determined, surviving. During week 6, a situation arose that tested Maya's resolve to maintain fairness. Johnson and another student, a male sergeant named Braxton, both failed the same shooting exercise. According to course policy, both should be removed immediately. But Braxton appealed the decision, claiming his rifle had been malfunctioning and requesting a retest. Maya reviewed the equipment logs and found no evidence of malfunction. The rifle had been properly maintained and zeroed. Braxton had simply missed the shot. "Request denied, Sergeant," Maya told him. "The standard is clear. You failed the exercise. You're removed from the course." "But Johnson missed the same exercise," Braxton protested. "Are you removing her too?" "Yes." "Both of you are removed. The standard applies equally." Braxton's face reddened. "This is bullshit. You're just covering for her because she's female. If it was 2 men, you'd let one of them retest." Maya's voice went cold. "Sergeant Braxton, you're now accused of challenging the integrity of this course's administration. That's a serious allegation. Do you have evidence to support it?" No, but then you're dismissed. Collect your gear and report for out-processing. Now." After Braxton left, Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Johnson is actually a decent student. Losing her is a shame." "She failed the standard," Maya replied. "Same as Braxton. We don't make exceptions, remember?" "I know. Just tough call." It was tough, but it was also necessary. The moment they showed favoritism, even once, even for good reasons, the entire premise of fair standards would crumble. Johnson took the news with grace. "Thank you for treating me fairly, Staff Sergeant. I'll apply again next year. I'll be better prepared." "See that you are, Corporal." The course continued. More students failed, more washed out. By graduation day, only 9 students remained. 7 men, 2 women, Rodriguez and Kim. They'd both earned it. Rodriguez had scores that ranked her 4th in the class. Kim had executed one of the best final evaluations Maya had ever witnessed. A 1,200-meter shot in difficult wind conditions that would have challenged even experienced snipers. At the graduation ceremony, Maya stood before the survivors and felt something she hadn't expected: pride. 9 graduates, she began, out of 45 who started. That's exactly what we expect from this course. You 9 have proven you have what it takes. You've met the standard. The same standard applied to every sniper who came before you. She looked at Rodriguez and Kim. 2 women graduating from U.S. Army Sniper School. 3 years ago, that would have been remarkable. Today, it's simply the result of competent soldiers meeting requirements. That's progress. After the ceremony, after the photos and handshakes and congratulations, after the students had departed and the base had settled into evening quiet, Maya and Sarah sat on the bleachers overlooking the main rifle range. "We did it," Sarah said quietly. "We did. Changed the course. Made it better. Prove that fair standards work. Maya nodded, watching the sun set over the Georgia landscape. Somewhere out there, Rodriguez and Kim were beginning their careers as Army snipers. So was Walsh, who'd eventually graduated from this course in a later class. So were dozens of other students who'd passed through the program under Maya and Sarah's instruction. You know what the best part is? Maya said eventually. What? In 10 years, maybe 20, there'll be so many women graduating from this course that nobody will think it's remarkable. It'll just be normal, and whoever's teaching then will look back at us and think, why was this ever controversial? That's when we'll know we succeeded. Sarah smiled. Long-term thinking, I like it. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon, leaving the range bathed in twilight. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new challenges, new students to train. But tonight, they could appreciate what they'd built. Not just their own success, but a foundation for everyone who came after. The laughter that had greeted them on that first day 3 years ago was gone, replaced by respect earned through undeniable excellence. And that, Maya reflected, was worth every moment of struggle. 54. It had taken to get here. If you believe courage has no gender, comment honor below.